Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Ecoffee with Experts. I'm your host, Matt Fraser. And on today's show, I have with me Andrew Young. Andrew is the president and CEO of Core and More Technologies, a full-service digital marketing and web development agency headquartered in Asbury Park, New Jersey. He holds a bachelor's degree in political science and computer science from Monmouth University in West Long Branch, New Jersey. He also holds a certificate in electronics and computer technology from the Cytone Institute in Edison, New Jersey. And he is an industry visionary with a long history of quickly and efficiently translating customer requirements into powerful solutions, leveraging the latest technology innovations available. Andrew is a member of the Monmouth University Business Council and holds numerous Google, Microsoft, and IBM certifications. Andrew, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So we were
talking. To it.
Yeah, me too. I always enjoy these interviews. So we were talking earlier about today's topic about how to quickly and easily dominate. Well, not quick. We're talking about how to dominate the search engines for service-based businesses using various Google products such as LSAs, local service ads, Google My Business or Google My Profile or whatever they're calling it nowadays, and Google Ads. And you seem to, from my understanding, have a knack or, obviously the knowledge of how to do that and to be able to, increase the visibility for your clients that you've worked with. So I'd like to talk about that. Can you share a little bit more about your experience in that regard?
Absolutely, Matt. Thank you. And it's something that I really love to talk about because it's a really powerful tool. And really, if you think about it, it's a powerful integrated strategy that's now available to us because what we're tapping into is a single engine through which we can, in the continental United States, where we can, we're talking about 12.1 million search queries a month. And putting into the hands of marketers the ability to capture the top, moving left to right, and in English-speaking cultures anyway, the ability to place advertisements right at the top of a query engine, a results page, what we call a search engine result page, where you're going to garner that real estate. I would argue that real estate is the most valuable real estate in the entire digital marketing space.
I agree.
I'm open to suggestions otherwise, but I don't see how anything could be any more powerful. And not only that, you also, by virtue of the process of setting your LSAs up, your local service ads up, you gain what is called a Google. It's either Google screened or Google guaranteed. It's right there in the little block that comprises your advertising space, which is super powerful. So like, say if you're an attorney, right. And you're positioning against people that are searching for personal injury attorneys, and you're coming up top left, first advertisement, moving left to right. It's really not even an advertisement anymore. When you come up and you're Google screened and you have a number of reviews, your 5-star reviews are being inherited into that ad block. And it's also providing your phone number. It's a click to call, which is equally functional from mobile or from a desktop.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's not even an advertisement. That's not a promotion at all. I mean, that's just purely about attraction. I mean, they're basically, giving you an endorsement.
So tell me a little bit, like who does local service ads, who do they apply to? Like what types of businesses? I mean, the service word, I guess, is the key, but like, is it contractors and professional businesses? Things like that?
Well, that's a great question. And it's been expanding for quite some time now. So just a little bit of backdrop and I'll lead into the answer to your question. So local service ads really launched back in 2019. It was a satellite project that was, Google was dipping their toe in two specific areas. I believe it was San Diego and Houston areas. Oh yeah. And they were so successful. It was limited to a few select categories back then, like lawyers, financial planners, realtors. It was so successful that they decided to roll it out for all professional services and on a national scale, right? So it's, now it's nationwide. And that, that's the service categories include at this point, I mean, there's like 25 locksmiths, lawyers, plumbers, roofers, electricians, HVAC installers. I mean, you even have pet groomers and lawn care providers and movers, carpet cleaners, auto service technicians. Like, there's a whole
pretty extensive
list. Yeah, it's intensive. And the way that I look at it is it's limited to those that would be providing services one-to-one, right? Personalized service. On a one-to-one scale. So we digital marketers, unfortunately, don't have the ability to tap into and market ourselves through local service ads because to some extent, it's really not a one-to-one experience, right? I mean, I could be sitting here, I'm sitting here in Asbury Park and you're in San Diego or Montana or Texas or Hawaii. Really doesn't matter to you where I'm sitting, but local services, local service ads literally
matter.
Meaning localized. This is one-to-one to me. You're here and you're providing services to me, and I can talk to you. I can come into your brick and mortar and you can come to my house and give me an estimate. That's really how you can look at local service ads as well. I wonder if that would work for local service ads. So, and Google's built out you could simply look at their local service ads portal and they list out all the various categories for any local service providers. I shouldn't really say this as an owner of a marketing agency, but local service providers, locksmiths, roofers, whatever, they can set local service ads up themselves as well. They really don't need an agency to do it for them.
Oh, wow. But the thing is, I think in some sense, like digital marketing is getting more complicated in some ways. And what I find is most plumbers and that with all respect for I don't want to bunch them all in, but they're either too busy to do it all. Or some of them, their computer aptitude is not very good. They're good and everybody's good at something. So I think there's the challenge there. Of course, some more tech savvy, maybe local business owners or service plumbers or whichever can do it. But I get what you're saying, that it's easy to do. It's not rocket science in that regard. How does it differ from Google Ads then?
Great question. And really that gets right to the heart of the value proposition for local service ads, in my opinion, is it's pay per lead, right?
Lead.
The foundation of Google Ads is cost per click. Right. Now there are pay per lead, they recently in the last couple of years, Google has rolled out the ability for you to, for example, with Smart Display, you can run with a cost per conversion, right? So you're only paying for the actual conversion. But I can tell you from experience that there's not really any recourse when you're paying per conversion. Sure, you have the column that shows you the invalid clicks, and the invalid clicks will be refunded. But when you're talking about a cost per conversion model, what does that really mean? Because you're not paying for clicks. So it doesn't matter. It's completely and utterly irrelevant. There is recourse. And that's another difference with the local service ad platform is through your local service ads, My Client Center, your portal that you have that enables you to mark leads off. It actually gives you the ability. It's like it's its own little CRM system that enables you the ability to mark leads off as booked or unqualified. And there is a seamless one-to-one process through which you can mark off certain leads and say this was not legitimate, and they will in most cases take that off of your billing. They will remove it from your billing. So the lead, not only it's typically it needs to be qualified, because listen, with local service ads, like anything, you're going to get that segment of people that are just going to maybe they're looking for service, they've already been connected with your business. And they're using local service ads to get in touch with you to say, well, when are you guys coming back out to resurface my roof? That's not a legitimate lead.
Oh, no,
they'll refund you on that. Google will actually play nice with you and they'll give you a refund on that. That's where the management end of it comes in, though. And to your point, Matt, most of the local service agency entities do not want to be bothered. Not only don't they have the bandwidth, but they don't want to be bothered with going through that process of on an ongoing basis, marking off those leads and doing the research to determine which ones are valid and which ones aren't, and which ones they think might fit into the, removal process, if you will. from the monthly billing. That's really the basis of the local service ads model. And it's a streamlined means by which one can go through a process on an ongoing basis of improving their ROI by checking off leads that aren't applicable.
Wow.
For various reasons, not the least of which would be that which I described.
Yeah, that is a perfect reason. So is Google using the honor system with service providers then and professionals in regards to, I mean, let's just say someone wants to take advantage of it and just mark them all as unqualified, but yet make the money. I mean, they're going to get their Google account banned if they keep doing that.
That's the thing. Good question. They're not just going to rubber stamp.
Yeah.
You can't just go in and select all and say, none of these are legit, even though you're closing business on the other end.
Exactly.
Right. And no, so they're going to actually go through a review process and on a one-to-one, but ongoing basis. Like it's not as though you have to do one at a time and say, I'm appealing this one, this one, this one, and this one. You can appeal 50 at once. And they'll get back to you and they'll review each one individually.
Oh, okay.
And they'll say, yes, absolutely, agree, disagree, agree. But our experience has been more often than not, you just apply the logic, right? Like this is somebody who's, this is a service call. Yeah. And they're using a local service ad and I'm paying, say, $75 for them to gain exposure to my company that they would have otherwise gotten for free through an organic listing if they scrolled a little bit further down the page. So you have that kind of conflict right there, right? And that would lead to one actually going into the equation of measuring diminishing returns, right? And if that's being a hit against my my overall ROAS, my return on ad spend, that's not really going to be favorable to the scaling of the platform and the value proposition. It's going to detract from the value proposition for the marketers and for the various entities that they're representing. Yeah. So I think strategically and wisely, Google has taken a position whereby they're allowing you to make the case for a scenario such as that, where it's it's a service call. They already know the company. They've already been exposed. It's not a legitimate first touch, attribution type of lead. And they'll give you that. Now, there's other instances, I should add, a couple of roofing companies that we market for that have seen, first off, as an ancillary note, they've seen tremendous value, like where they might have a typical, cost per acquisition of $100, $125 through LSAs. They're enjoying a CPA of about $50. So it's a huge difference. It's significant. And the quality of the lead is always going to be pre-vetted, right? I mean, why is that? The reason is it's not keyword driven, right? Yeah. There's always going to be, with keyword advertising, there's always going to be a little bit of drip. There's going to always be a delta of potential inaccuracy. And it's not necessarily traced back to the efficiencies of the team that's implementing, but rather technology as a whole, right? I mean, we're not pouring concrete. There's always going to be some fluidity, and there's always going to be some instances where certain long tail keywords that are queries that people are typing into the search engine are not going to match to the phrase match keywords that really, with the removal of broad match modifiers in the Google Ads platform, have become much more relevant now for advertisers, right? So you're going to have phrase matches like best roofing company, but what if that's matching against best roofing company for roof leaks, and you don't want to advertise, and you don't want roof leaks. Yeah. You know what? Well, maybe you're going to have to, as the owner of the business, think about, how do I manage that? Right? Like, I don't want to lose the business of people that are searching on the best roofing companies, but I don't want roof leaks. How do I reconcile that? Well, maybe you expand your business and say, I'm going to bundle up all these roof leak leads that are coming in, and I'm going to sell them to local companies that are actually doing roof leak services.
That's so smart.
You just have to be creative in those ways as an owner, as an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
It's weighing the option of losing the business here, or, what do I do with all these leads that I'm really not interested in servicing, but there's value to those leads. Maybe I can find the value in other ways rather, than I've been thinking of. But anyway, if you're a roofer, for example, you have a number of different categories that you can advertise against. Or if, for example, you're a lawyer, like there's subcategories that you can advertise under. So say, for example, if you're a personal injury lawyer, but you're not interested in family law, you can select personal injury, and you can select subcategories of personal injury like assault and battery, pain and suffering, things like that. And you can become that granular. And the same thing for roofing companies. Like if you are only interested in roof replacements or new business, new construction, you can check that off, and you can deselect roof leaks or gutter repairs or anything else that ancillary, the ancillary services that roofing companies might provide. So it's not a keyword thing. It's a concept thing. It's a conceptual thing. I don't want to service that segment of this industry, period. So if you get roof leaks, then the point I was making is if you continue to get people who are just not paying attention, like maybe they search on roof leaks or roofing leaks, or, I'm sorry,
roof repair.
I should rephrase that. I should rephrase that. Say if somebody's searching for roofing companies. And you've deselected roof leaks as the advertiser or as the owner of a roofing company. So your local service ad is going to show up against that search on roofing companies. But the mind of the consumer may not be to specifically search for somebody to repair a roof leak. They're just looking for a roofing company. And when they get in touch with the company, if their need is to fulfill a roofing leak, they're going to call and they're going to, hey, I got a roof leak. I just searched on roofing companies. Can you come and help me? That's a legitimate, they're not going to refund you for that.
No,
because
they're not.
That's on the consumer's end. That, Google, and honestly, you can't really hold Google responsible for that.
No.
They're serving your ad against roofing companies. The consumer is looking for somebody to service a roof leak. And I think nobody would argue about the validity of that lead, so we don't contest them. We wouldn't even waste our time because it wouldn't even be fair.
So the solution to that then is for the roofer that doesn't do roof leaks to hand it over or to sell it down the line to a company that does do roof repair.
Bundle them up.
Leaks. Bundle them up, sell them.
Bundle them up.
Refer them.
And think about it. You could, do the same thing if you're, what would be a lawyer? A good example. If you're a plumber who doesn't want to install toilet bowls, and somebody's looking for a plumber, and you're getting hits, and 100 people a month are asking you, to come over and change the toilet. Well, you know what? Maybe it's a time to think about changing toilets. But also, if you really just don't want to go in that direction, bundle them up. Say, hey, listen, we have your contact information. We're going to pass this on to one of our affiliates, and you'll be hearing from them. And that's great referral system. Or
hire an apprentice plumber, who's
right.
A junior plumber to go and change those toilets and make some money.
100%. And landscapers, that's another one. Think about the various services that landscapers offer. I'm not going to go off on a tangent here. Like I had the need to remove some hedges from the side of my house. And I went out and I searched for a landscaper. That doesn't mean that I want ongoing services. That landscaper might have selected that they only want ongoing services. That's what they're looking for. That's the crux of their business. Their model is built on recurring services. They want to make $40 a week going over and mowing the lawn on that house. And they add that, and that's how they build up their book of business. And they're just not interested in doing one-off jobs. But if I search for landscapers near me, and I click on that ad for that landscaper, and I'm calling them to ask them to come and remove these hedges. Well, I've gotten my exposure. Google's done their job. Where is the water's edge of where you get a refund and where you don't? So
true.
Again, we need to think about it in fairness, right? Like if I'm positioning myself at the front of a grocery store aisle, one last analogy. which is what Google local service ads enables me to do. I might have an idea that and that's another thing. I mean, you think about it, and you're getting your advertisement with a potential audience that entails, tens of millions of searches on a monthly basis, and you have access to arguably the most, relevant and highly sought and
qualified
valuable real estate in the digital marketing world. You have access to that. And, you're going to have to, as an advertiser, apply a sense of fairness when it comes to the model that Google has rolled out, and not try to be overzealous with your refund strategy, because guess what? Yeah. There's an intangible here, Matt. And I know I'm going off on a tangent here.
No, it's okay.
And I preface this, but we've had now 3.5 solid years of experience with local service ads.
Yeah.
And if you dominate with local service ads, so typically what's going to happen is you have your mobile device, right? Yeah. And on a mobile device, it's a little bit different, because you're going to want to have one of the top 2 advertisements come up, right? Because of the size of the screen. You're not going to have, like on a desktop, you're going to have 3 ads moving left to right. They're about 1 by 2, and they move left to right, and it fits 3 neatly. And then below that, you have a show more options. And who clicks on that? I don't know the numbers, but probably not many. They're going to click on one of those first 3 advertisements typically. And on a phone, it's only 2 moving top to bottom. And if you go into landscape mode, it might go side to side, but I don't think so. So you really need to garner one of those top positions, and ad rank comes into play here, similar to how ad rank works in the Google Ads world, where it's a triangulation of, quality score, which is comprised of what? It's comprised of the relevance of your ad to the copy of your ad to the relevance of your landing page. Well, we're really, in this case, a landing page isn't quite so relevant, because you can get to a website, to a local service ad, but it's not easy. 90% of it is 99% of it, I should say, is click to call. It's all click to call. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's phone
quality. Calls. The quality really comes down to the commitment of the company to leverage the platform that Google provides to be responsive as you can possibly be. Because if you're not responsive, and you're providing a bad user experience for those that are calling, Google's going to detect that, right? They're going to realize that, hey, it takes on average 10 rings for these folks to pick up a call. And then it's not even a good experience once that happens, because already if the person makes it that far, they're exacerbated. They're like, wow, I haven't had experience like that in a while. Hi, I'm trying to find somebody to give me some services. Geez, why does it take 10 times for you to pick up the phone anyway? I like to inquire about your, you know what I mean? Like, it's
I know what you're saying. Absolutely.
So we advise our clients that you have to get it down to 2, maybe 3 rings. And on a weekly basis, you have to go in and you have to mark off whether these things have been, the deals have been booked, if you're archiving, if you're disputing. Now, it's not that linear. What we've discovered over time, and this is in the interest of full transparency, this is not documented anywhere. This is experience.
Yeah.
There's going to be, if you're a machine of dispute, it feels like your ads show up with less, you get less prominent ad placements.
Yeah.
You have to be, now listen, if the quality of your leads dictates that you need to be that it's impacting your bottom line, then you have to do what you have to do. You really have to practice that balance of fairness in terms of where is that water's edge. And it's a very common sense kind of thing, like we've discussed. And if you're doing that, it won't impact you. But if we've seen where there's overzealousness in that practice, and it results in demotion. Another thing is you have to be cautious about the way that you're potentially implementing phone numbers. So what we do at Core and More Technologies, in the interest of full transparency, and I'm happy to talk about them, is We've partnered with a company out of South Carolina called What Converts. It's a very, very powerful digital marketing tool.
They are, yeah. Oh,
they
absolutely.
are the best. And
they
by
are
the way,
guaranteed.
It's easy to reach them. Their support team is almost white label. They work with us. They jump on client calls if necessary. True team players from the CEO on down. Who completely understands that sometimes you have to serve in order to lead. That's great wisdom, right?
Oh, absolutely.
There's no ego there. So, the What Converts platform enables us to provision phone numbers, and to build a really watertight attribution model, we provision a phone number for local service ads. And
it's dedicated to local service ads. It's
dedicated. So
that's it. That's all it's for.
It's only used there. So logical procedure of deduction, any phone calls that are coming in from that number are coming from that local service ad phone number that we've provisioned and we've labeled appropriately in the What Converts system, right?
Yeah.
And if it's regional, like if you have different locations, because you can. So I can have local service ads. If I'm a nationwide plumbing company, for example, if I have Google My Business locations set up all over the country, I can have a Google local service ad tied to each of those Google My Business locations. So there's ways of doing that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that aside, I can provision different phone numbers for different Google My Business locations, right? Because we want to be granular. We want to be integrated. Absolutely. We actually do that. We provision phone numbers for local service ads. We provision a phone number for each and every individual Google Local My Business listing. And we provision phone numbers for each Google call extension that's running through the Google Ads platform, right?
That's just unbelievable.
So anyway, that attribution that we've now created, that attribution model that we've built is rock solid. It's watertight. And we know that anybody calling that number now, there's one little leak in that, I should say, is if that person happens to store that phone number for that local service ad on their phone and they want to redial it 2 months later, we've seen very, very few of them, but it does happen. So
that's so minimal.
Well, and you think about it, if you have other service providers like CallRail and others, you have to make sure that when you're provisioning a phone number, that there's no gap when that phone number, which is essentially, it's a vanity number, right? It's going through What Converts, and then it's porting to a destination number. And the destination number is the former LSA phone number, right? So you had that number in your system, it was working well, but now you're actually provisioning a phone number that's going to do a relay. That relay must be seamless.
Yeah.
Right. It has to be set up so that Google isn't detecting that the call ends there, but that it's routing out. And that happens automatically. You just have to make sure that whoever it is, if you're not partnering with What Converts or CallRail or one of the big players, if you're going with some mom and pop provider, make sure that those calls are going to be permissible, that they're going to seamlessly route to destination numbers without any kind of proxies or crazy stuff going on that's going to throw a wrench in the system between those two, because it will impact your LSAs. If it's a bad user experience, I mean, everything that Google is all about is being the great relevance engine of our time, right? And it's all about user experience. Why do I use Google over other search engines? Why do they have 90% market share when Bing and Yahoo have joined forces against them, yet they continue to dominate? Why? Because they have the best results. And
they do.
You can't be contrary or swimming against that model with your local service ad approach. You have to be disciplined. So yes, it is easy for folks to set it up, but really all the intricacies and everything else that we're talking about now that give you that long-term sustainable position at the top of the perch with the most, relevant and valuable digital marketing real estate in the industry has to be nurtured, you have to pay attention to it, and you have to build upon it.
So I have a couple of questions. There's so many questions going through my mind that I've been trying to keep them all organized.
Well, I'm rambling on.
No, it's all good. Does those phone numbers, so the Google ads, the phone numbers, for instance, this is what I'm trying to get at. Does Google provision a number and then their number goes to the What Converts number and then the What Converts number goes to the destination number? Or did you just put in the What Converts? Is that not needed, the Google number? Like, does Google not give you a number? You just put in the What Converts phone number, which then goes to a destination number?
That's a great question and worth spending a minute or two on. So you'll provision a phone number and you'll pop it into your local service ad.
Yeah.
And you'll come back and then you'll look at you'll see your local service ad and you'll notice that it's a different phone number than the number that you provisioned.
Okay.
So yes, there is a Google phone number that's being used on the front end.
Fair enough.
That is another layer that we have absolutely no control over that, by the way.
Yeah. But I mean, how else are they going to track the ads though? How else is Google going to know if it works if they don't use their own tracking number?
Indeed. Right. So they have their needs to track and we have our needs to track. Yeah. And we bring them all together and we have a harmonious digital marketing attribution model.
Yeah. What about tying those calls to an event in Google Analytics for attribution? Is that possible?
At this point, that's another awesome question. Well, so at this point, when we're running reports, so what we do is, through Google Tag Manager, and What Converts. So What Converts enables us to integrate with Google Analytics.
Yeah.
And so we're pushing what we prepend them as WC. In other words, What Converts? WC phone call, WC form, if it's on the website.
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
And were you creating a dedicated? Go ahead.
The integration with Google Analytics.
Yeah.
When you're looking at, if you go, and my favorite view in Google Analytics is when you go to the, I believe it's under behavior channels.
Mm-hmm.
It's the attribution view. Give me 1 second. Let me bring that up.
Sure.
So do
you create it just on while you're looking that up? I know Universal Analytics is dying and Google's retiring it and GA4. I don't want to talk about it right now because we could chase that rabbit hole for a year. But I'm exaggerating, of course. But did you create a dedicated view for the phone in these instances for clients, or just use filters to the attribution to look at? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what we look under the acquisition view, overview. I'm sorry, acquisition, all traffic channels. Okay. So when you go into the acquisition, all traffic channels view, any events that you've set up are going to come up. The goal is going to come up. We wrap the events around, we wrap goals around the events.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So for example, we'll have under one of our goals, it'll be, maybe it's contact us, maybe it's an estimate, maybe it's a phone call from What Converts. And all those goals by default are going to be wrapped up. And, when you go into that view that I just described, you're going to have all the goals. It's going to show you the goal completions, the conversion rates, and everything else. And then it's going to show you that on a per channel basis, like, for example, paid search, organic, direct. Now, Google local service ads are actually tracked and pushed in, but they come up under left paren, other, right paren. It's under the other category.
Oh.
Similar to Google My Business. Because that's the way we have it set up. So we have phone number. The way we set up the phone numbers, as I mentioned in What Converts, is we're pushing them through and we're giving them a source and a medium, right? So our source would be Google and the medium would be LSA. Our source would be Google and medium would be GMB,
Google
My Business.
Or whatever.
Right? Our source would be Google and our medium would be call extension CPC.
Yeah.
So, you see where I'm going.
Yeah.
And when they're pushed into analytics, what I can do is I can I can look at the secondary dimension. And if I select source medium, it's going to expand that other category and it's going to show me Google / Google My Business, Google call extensions / CPC, Google / LSA.
Yeah.
I got a full attribution model.
Yeah.
It's all wrapped into one. Now, the only thing that it doesn't give me, obviously, is it's not a CRM. It's not going to give me,
that's my next question.
It's giving me the CVR, the conversion rate, but it's not going to give me the quotable conversion rate. The quotable conversion rate is where What Converts comes in.
Okay.
So over on that side, you have to have some commitment on behalf of your clients. They're the ones that are going to need to go in on an ongoing basis and mark leads off as quotable or not.
Okay.
And ideally, they're going to also add the value of each of those quotes on an ongoing basis as they're marking them off. Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
That one's quotable. It's a $10,000. So on an ongoing basis, we provide monthly reports that show, all right, here you are. For the month, you spent this much. This is how much pipeline you generated. This is how much revenue you closed. this is your ROAS, this is your ROI with our services included.
Yeah.
And we have the whole model. And that's what WorkConverts enables us to do. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And
without it, without it, I don't know how people do marketing, honestly. Like
seriously, from what I understand, there's companies out there that don't go to that level, but I don't know.
They don't. Trust me, they don't. I won't like call anybody out, but it blows my mind away. They don't.
Yeah.
Like they don't. So, like I've talked to people who are marketing people, and they don't use UTMs like you and I are talking about.
Jeez.
They don't tag, they don't track, they don't use attribution. They don't, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here, but yeah, I've talked to agency owners that I asked them if they had Google Analytics set up and if some of you who are listening, I don't mean to offend you, but you really need to know your crap. Like,
yeah,
the attribute, their extents, their implementation of Google Analytics was that the script was installed on the client's website.
All right.
I mean,
and they did it hard coded. They didn't even use Tag Manager.
They did not use Tag Manager.
Right.
So but I don't want to chase that rabbit.
I hear you. It's,
it's disappointing, but we'll just focus on being professionals.
Yeah. The one little gap, and it drives me crazy about the local service ads piece.
Okay.
Is you really don't, when they come into Google Analytics, they're coming in as a user, right? They're coming in. You're not getting the impressions, in other words, like,
okay.
And the MCC doesn't show you how many impressions your local service ad is getting. So you don't know.
The MCC, for those people who who are listening, or probably don't know what that means. Merchant Center.
Yeah, the My Client Center.
Yeah, My Client Center.
So it's your dashboard.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit of a gray area there. You don't know what your exposure is. You can measure your clicks, and you can measure the conversions, but you can't measure the impressions. It's just not available.
You mentioned. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to finish that thought. So when we look at the impact of paid versus organic, right? And we think about an integrated marketing strategy. We're always thinking about, well, what value, if we have, a client for whom we're providing the entire suite of services, LSAs, CPC, organic, social media, et cetera, thinking about it just in the terms of the Google platform. Well, what impact is the relevance that we're seeing now on various keywords that we've strategized for, that we've acted kind of as an investment advisor to our clients and told them to invest in? And as we know, SEO, I mean, that can be a huge investment. You're talking about building content, backlinks that can become expensive. You get those companies that you're going to be competing against. Oh, they're going to build me a website and they're going to do my SEO, and they're only going to charge me $1,500 and $500 a month. And I'm like, all right, good luck.
Yeah, good luck with that.
They're not going to give you anything for that.
No, they're not. No, you're going to.
But to do real SEO is, it gets expensive, and that's just the way it is. But the return on investment is not linear. It's not just like you look at that and say, well, organically this month you had 75 leads and it generated X pipeline, X revenue. Well, wait a minute. Google is now, and they've had this for years, given us the ability to look at paid and organic reports in the Google Ads platform. So what impact has the rise of these various keywords that we've been optimizing against into the top 3 showing up simultaneously with our Google Ads, with our Google ad blocks? What impact is that having on potentially on our CPCs, on our click-through rates? And what we've seen across different clients, across numerous industries, is that typically we're seeing a 36% increase in click-through rate, which is obviously that's the number of clicks opposed to the number of impressions. 36% increase, going from like 15% up to 20%. And we've also at the same time seen a 36% decrease in cost per click on average. That's pretty powerful. And that's really the dimension that we're talking about in terms of truly quantifying the value of organic. Unfortunately, given that we don't know what impression share looks like at this point, it's a black box with LSAs. There's no way for us to determine the impact of what we call a trifecta, where you have an LSA, right? Prominent. Even if it's in the top, it doesn't have to be number 1 moving left to right. It could be in the middle to the right. And you have a CPC ad showing up, and you have an organic listing showing up. And the quadfecta would be is you also have a Google My Business listing, but obviously that's going to be on a branded search. But if you think about it, that is really that is the dominance that we're talking about. When you have
that's incredible
search engine result page through which you have 85% market share with respect to access to consumers, and you have an LSA, a CPC, and an organic listing simultaneously, we can't fully quantify what impact that's going to have on click-through rates and driving down CPCs to the extent that we can between just Google ads and organic listings. But I would have to think that the numbers are significant. How many more people are going to now be clicking on your LSAs? Because below that, the optics of seeing, and by the way, I mean, the only thing that differentiates an ad from an organic listing now is that little, it just says ad and the rest is just the same color as everything else.
Yeah, it's not prominent anymore.
The optics of it in an eye scan for the average consumer, they might not even notice that. They just see that, wow, boom, Google guaranteed roofing company.
You just touched on something. Yeah. We got to talk about that. The Google guarantee. Really
like that. And you got the organic, you got the paid listing, which also has, by the way, call out extensions, 5-year warranty, 100% finance.
Oh, there's okay.
You're crushing it. You've done why they're not going to click on your ad. Oh, and then by the way, layer in some display advertising on top of that. So maybe you're priming them at the top of the funnel when they're not really searching, but they're researching. They're looking at maybe websites or what do I ask the roofer when I'm interviewing them to maybe do my work on my house. Now we could start showing them display advertisements as they're consuming content across the web through Performance Max campaigns.
So this is so powerful that I can see marketers trying to take advantage of this as they have with Google My Business or Google Business Profile listings and creating quote unquote fake listings that aren't real businesses and then renting them out and so on and so forth. But I won't go there. But the point I'm trying to make is that with these LSAs, what's to stop a marketer from trying to launch a campaign and sell leads to a plumber or a roofer? For instance, you have to be a real entity, don't you? Like,
I got you. Yeah, no, you got it. It's an exhaustive, and that's really one of the value adds that we provide as an agency is we walk them through the entire process of that. Like you have to show, the articles of your business,
your articles of incorporation.
Yeah, you have to show, like they go through an entire vetting process. They do background checks, They have third-party companies through which they facilitate background checks, and it's a pretty exhaustive process. And it typically takes 3 to 4 weeks to get your local service ads up and running and through that process. Yeah.
So, is this not for new companies then? Like, let's say a new roofing startup company.
Oh no, you can jump right in. But what you're really going to want to do is, and you can do this collaboratively. Maybe the word is corroboratively. Because they work together, you're going to want to build up your reviews.
First.
Through Google My Business, because your Google local service ads are going to be pulling directly from the reviews that you've garnered. So if you're a brand new company and you don't have any reviews, that's another factor in the weighing of your relevance. It's not a quintessential factor though, Matt. It's really weird. It fluctuates. I think it has more to do with the direct user experience that's being recorded and associated with your account as the results accrue than it has to do with the amount of reviews that you already have. Because if you have 5,000 reviews and it's a 5.0, the best you can get, yet when people are calling into your company, they're being channeled off to an answering service and they're not reaching a human being. And
that's not good.
The user experience is terrible for whatever reason. That's going to be more relevant to the placement and to the ad rank of your Google local service ad than your reviews are going to be.
So let's talk about that for a minute, and then let's talk about Google Guarantee. So for instance, I know contractors I've worked with, they're terrible for answering the phone. They're absolutely terrible. You try and do marketing for them, and they're terrible at it. So my thought process is to recommend a call answer service, because the value of that against the lost business to me makes sense. Now, pitching that to a business owner and getting them to think that way is another story. But would that be a means of, like, if you're so busy that you can't answer the phone because your business is growing so fast that you're on these jobs and doing these projects. I mean, economically, a call center is less expensive than hiring a secretary or an administrative assistant to answer the phone. So I don't know if is that a solution to like training and I mean, I can think about training a call center. Like I know of one off the top of my head that I know about. That they would, you train them on all your FAQs and all of those things and how to answer the phone. They answer just like your company. I mean, could that be a way for? I don't know if you've seen that happen or if you have any comments on it.
Yeah, no, I have seen that. And what I would say is, I think you hit the nail right on the head that if they're being well equipped, that is the call centers, to represent the company, then I think it's possible, but it's never going to be as effective as people who are fielding the calls inside the company who may have an incentive, right?
Yeah, okay.
And the incentive may not be monetary. It may be that accountability might just play into it, right? You're never going to have the level of accountability inside a call center for various clients. They're managing 10 different clients and they're picking up a piece of paper and reading from a script.
You're right.
As you're going to have when the folks are internal. And if you make the investment in a couple of, one or two should be able to field things, maybe three, that are handling the influx of calls on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
And they know that their job performance is directly tied to the number of calls and to the success and the percentage of the number of calls that are then being transferred over to the actual, to the folks that are generating the quote. If that's the way the business is set up, maybe it's the same person doing that. Either way, I want to see a percentage. So the marketing agency that I'm working with is providing me these touch points, right? They're telling me when someone comes to my website, how many of those people that, first of all, they're exposed to my advertisement. How many of the people that are exposed to my ad are clicking on it? That's my click-through rate. Then how many people that click on that ad that come to the website, how many of the people that arrive on the website are actually converting? What's that conversion rate look like? And then they're telling me, of those people that converted on the website, how many of them are turning into pipeline? What's that quotable conversion rate look like? Sales team now has to tell me, and this is something that we as marketers can't do. What's my closed conversion rate look like? What does my revenue look like? Right?
Absolutely.
That funnel has to be replicated internally with respect to the calling process. And if they can match that to the level of service that we're providing on the front end from the marketing side, you're going to have a winning recipe.
Yeah.
They might need to pony up and make that investment. How much do they want to scale? If they're going to drive all these leads to their site, but they don't have the infrastructure to support those leads, that's a problem.
It's a problem. And maybe the answer is in the beginning, for cash flow reasons, to hire a call center just to get things going, or a family friend or someone, because in today's day and age with VoIP phones, you don't need somebody could be sitting in another part of the world answering the darn phone. Which is true. But and maybe you grow into hiring staff. Maybe that could be a solution. But in that regard, those are, I think, some answers there. But you talked about the Google guarantee. What is that all about?
So essentially what happens is there's two aspects of it. And it falls into the category of whether or not Google Screened is one category of
Google Screen,
of validation, and Google Guarantee is another. There's two buckets. One is Google Screened and the other is Google Guaranteed. And really, what comprises that? Well, you can think about it like this. Google Screened means that, if you're an attorney, you've been screened, right? They've checked you out. They know that, you're legitimate, that you're providing the services that and you're capable. Google Screens is more along the lines of professional services like lawyers.
Yeah.
Google Guaranteed is where, it's a roofing company, or it's a locksmith, or it's an HVAC provider, where Google is saying, yes, this is a reputable company. We've looked at them. We've checked, the various touch points, like that might include the Better Business Bureau, other outlets. There's no red flags to indicate that this company is not doing business on the up and up.
on an ethical manner.
If you're, operating in an unethical manner, or if there's a ton of complaints, negative sharing that's being done, people that are saying this is a fly-by-night company, they're not reputable, don't use them. The inverse of that is the optics of arriving at, a search query where you're seeing, look, here we are. Here's the name of the company. Here's their, the rating of their reviews, ideally 5 stars, and it gives you the number. And, there's a link where you can click on see reviews. So you can, pop up and you'll be able to see the reviews right there and scroll through them. Below that, you're going to have the little green check mark, Google guaranteed. It's kind of like the blue check mark on Twitter, right? That it's validated. They've been validated. And, the Google screened it's kind of the same thing. The only difference really in the way it's rendered, at last I checked, and this may have changed, but for attorneys, for example, if they're coming up Google screened, it's not actually contained in the ad block. Whereas if you're Google guaranteed, it's contained within the ad block. Google screened, it's going to say Google screened at the top of the area that's allocated for local service ads. And then it's going to show you the various attorneys that fall under the Google screened, umbrella that have been Google screened.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's really, from an optics perspective, 6 of one, half and a dozen of the other, in my opinion. I'd rather have the Google guarantee. I think it looks a little better inside the ad block.
Well, what does Google guarantee though? Like, what do they?
It's guaranteed. Like
they have monetary,
it's a monetary guarantee. Yeah, if you have a dispute and for example, the company doesn't provide the services that they had committed to providing, and you show them an invoice. We've never had to do this, but you go through a process, and ultimately at the end of that process, Google will, the guarantee is that they will refund you the money that you spent.
So for instance,
through that that service.
You get someone who, this happens, bathroom renovation, guy require a third, and let's say it's 10 grand and he wants 3,300 up front, and then he takes off with your money. You can report that to Google and they'll give you a certain amount back.
Yes. I think it's 100%.
Yeah.
And then they'll take up, it's kind of like a Discover card where they'll take up the fight with the vendor, right?
Oh, wow.
Like with my Discover, I'm not doing a commercial for Discover, but they're great. I mean, I've had instances where I spent $4,000 on something and I say, I'm disputing this. I didn't get the services I wanted. They immediately drop a refund into my account and they take it up from there. They take up the legal battle. It's from what I understand, we've never experienced it, but from what I understand, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And now it may not be as immediate as with the Discover card.
Yeah.
But that's the guarantee.
But hey,
that is the nature of the guarantee.
That is so powerful, man.
It is so powerful.
Such a powerful value proposition, and Google has the money in the bank to back it.
So
it's so smart.
The most valuable you got the most valuable real estate in the digital marketing industry. You got a cost per lead model with an outlet, a conduit that enables you to dispute leads that's legitimate, and you have a guarantee.
That's incredible.
It's incredible.
Gosh.
It's brilliant. And for anyone who's in that space, who's providing local services, if they're not leveraging that,
you're doing your clients a disservice.
That mechanism, they're insane. Or uninformed.
One or the other. Absolutely, one or the other. So you mentioned it's pay per lead. Is the same? I'm assuming, because I've never done them before, but I'm assuming it's the same concept as pay per click. For instance, is what I'm getting at. A lawn care company. Well, no, but a lawn care company isn't going to pay the same per click as a plastic surgeon. Plastic surgeon clicks, from what I understand, about $25 a click. Whereas someone mowing lawns. So I'm assuming Google's figured out what the average cost per lead is to charge each different provider. Like you mentioned, they do lawn care services. The average transaction value is much lower than kitchen renovation. So Google's probably got their own database of how they figured out how to charge. Is that correct?
Well, the beauty is, here's how the model works.
Yeah.
You can bid, and you can either bid maximize leads, right? Which is obviously kind of like the target CPA model, target ROAS model.
Yeah.
So if you as an owner, you know what your ROAS looks like, and you know what you want that number to be. You might not want to use the maximize leads, because really what that's going to do is you're going to set a weekly budget, right? So say I'm going to maximize my leads. I'm willing to spend $3,000 a month, and Google's going to go out and they're going to get me as many leads as I can get for that $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
I optionally can set the maximum amount I want to pay per lead.
Ooh.
And yes. So you can, it's the maximum cost essentially that you want to pay for a lead.
Okay.
I can give you a little bit of insight on this.
Yeah, because go ahead. Very interesting.
I don't know if I should say this on a recording, but
we can
our experience has been that we've had several advertisers, when we set up their local service ads and they go to production, the results are just phenomenal. Like it's like catching lightning in a bottle. They got they're just cranking. The leads are coming in and the doors are blowing off and they're ready to reinvest. And then typically it slows down a little bit, things adjust, and you have to work to make sure that they maintain. They have to work with you from the call center side, from however they're facilitating, receiving the calls and processing them, and the overall process, everything that we've described. There has to be a commitment, and it has to be a rock solid commitment on that end. A commitment to quality, a commitment that you're going to field the calls, that you're going to provide the best user experience that you can provide for these leads that Google is driving to you. And if you don't, you're going to see, you're going to start losing your position. But out of the gate, the position, really, you get the position, right?
Yeah.
And then you could drop from there. You got to be on top of it.
Yeah.
And if your client isn't working with you to be on top of it, you're only going to have so much control because you're not answering the calls.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what Google gives you is, upon establishing the account, you've gone through the approval process, you're ready to launch, there's excitement, you've incorporated your reviews, you're building more reviews. There's a whole process that can go behind that. We, as those who work within agencies, we know that there's ways that we can streamline that. We add mechanisms to our website. We encourage those that we're marketing for to add it into the process when they're finishing up jobs, ask for Google reviews, all that good stuff. We need to really, what's going to happen is Google is going to give you, a base number that they think you should bid. Like it'll set a default for you, like $60. This is what we recommend. Okay. And they'll provide you a few additional recommendations. You can go 70, and we estimate you'll get the $70 per lead. You'll get this many leads. $85, you'll get this many leads. Now, those numbers about how many leads you're going to get at those different tiers are completely not accurate. You got to manage
Why does that not surprise me with Google?
You got to manage expectations with your client.
Okay.
And don't go telling them, well, if you listen, Mr. Business Owner, if you spend $85 as opposed to 60, you're going to get 15 leads a week as opposed to 5. You better be ready at the end of the week to explain why you didn't get those 15 leads.
Or to provide them to them.
Right. So again, to your point, Matt, it is to some extent supply and demand, but it's more importantly, it's the user experience. And at the end of the day, really what it comes down to is the user experience paired with the amount you're willing to spend per lead, paired with the amount you're willing to allocate to a budget on a weekly or a monthly basis. And that's going to determine, where in the hierarchy of the advertising structure your ad is going to place, and also the times within which your ad is going to be placed there. So you can set it so that you're not showing up on weekends. You're only showing from, 8 to 4, 3 to 5. You can control all that very easily through the interface. And by the way, they've recently added some additional innovations. So you can do text messaging directly through your local service ads. So you can now enable an instant messenger, and you can also tie in your booking calendar. So you can streamline the entire process where you don't even need to have a call. Book now is now an option.
My goodness.
You have to go through some setup for that. You have to make sure that you have to, first of all, opt into one of the calendars that Google is going to support. One of those. So
you have to use a Google supported calendar. Like they don't.
There's several that they offer. Yeah, I'm not going to name them, but there's several that they offer.
All right. Okay.
And you have to use one of them.
You have to use one of them. Okay.
Yep. But it's an option, and what we've experienced is that the more options that you offer, the more often your ad is going to show up at the top of the search engine result page, at the top of the local service ad block.
Okay.
So we're offering messaging. We're offering click to call. We're offering booking directly right there. It's similar to like what lead form extensions are to Google Ads, right? You have the ability to right there. It's, the lead form extension gives you the ability to send a text message right to the phone of the business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's similar to that. Now we're using Zapier for an integration. So we're offering for our clients the ability to facilitate the messaging extensions. But now how do we bring that into our attribution model? Because it's different from a call. So it's not going to fit under the attribution model that we've already discussed. So now we have to think about adding Zapier into the mix, or any other third-party conduit. We use Zapier.
Yeah, well, what else?
Now take those messages, those text messages, and relay them into the WhatConvert system from the LSA's platform.
That's so bloody brilliant, because that was going to be the question I was going to ask you, and you already answered it about integration.
It's not easy.
And here's another thing. It is pain in the butt. Well, you could also, my thought process is you could also use Zapier to integrate it with your CRM if possible.
100%. Mm-hmm.
So that then you can tie. So here's a question. What about, I don't even know if Google has done this or not, but you mentioned how it's like a mini CRM. I wonder if instead of manually, you can create or maybe they'll do this eventually, a bridge between your CRM and Google's LSA MCC to be able to automatically mark those leads as good or not. You get your CRM talking to Google. That would be bloody brilliant.
That's an interesting thought. And as it stands today, the My Client Center, aka the MCC, in Google Ads, does not afford you the ability.
Yeah, that's too bad.
To put revenue, it's not like you can, you can't go into the MCC. Basically shows you the customer name, the job type, whether it's for a roofing company, a roof installation, if it's a lawyer, whether it's family law, personal injury, et cetera. The location by the zip code, the lead type, whether it's a message, whether it's a direct booking, whether it's a phone call, and when they called, the date, the date of the contact. But and then you can run reports, but the reports are going to be, it's basically against the amount of budget you spent, the number of leads that were charged, and the appointments that have been booked.
Google Data Studio or some kind of dashboard to pull in all that data to be able to do reporting for clients in that kind of fashion? Or
actually, that's what a great question, Matt. We just rolled that out in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks to my wonderful my top account manager. She took the initiative to say, you know what? We have these disparate platforms. Let's roll all of this up into Google Data Studio.
Absolutely.
So that we can show everything, right? Because the thing that we're missing in all of it is, WhatConverts, it's great, right? And it tells us everything about, you can even record the calls. You can transcribe the calls. So when the various leads are coming in and they're really streamlined emails, in the top of the header of the email, it's telling you the source, the channel. It's telling you the campaign, because we use a tracking template that WhatConverts provides, and we drop that into the campaign level of every Google CPC campaign that we launch, right? Yeah. So now we're pulling in the campaign, everything, all the attribution is right there. Yeah. It's organic. It's telling us the keyword to the extent that it can.
Yeah.
And now we have all of this great attribution going on.
Yeah.
Over here, right? But the thing that we're not seeing is the number of impressions, right? So we're missing that one level up the funnel, which shows us the click-through rate, on the website side and the conversion rate on the website side, right? That's not in what converts. Everything else is.
Okay.
Data Studio, to your point, enables us to bring them together.
All together. That's
one
awesome.
place.
Yeah.
And if the client is keeping up with the pipeline and the revenue numbers, it also enables us to pull in the little rectangular charts that we formatted that say your ROI over this given period is this. And by the way, with Google Data Studio, you can do comparisons and say, show me last 30 days versus the previous or versus last year. What's my ROI? Month over month. What's my ROAS look like?
Yeah.
Great. I'm getting hundreds of visits to my website, but really, what is that turning into in terms of tangible value?
Yeah.
And that's what Data Studio, we bring it all together with Data Studio.
Absolutely.
Great point. Great point.
Yeah. When I was at the car dealership, I had to work my ass off, excuse my French, to prove that what I was doing was working. And I say this because I was generating leads that the salespeople were blowing and weren't selling. And it was a bunch of politics, but I won't get into it. But the point I'm trying to make is that I literally took data from the CRM because I had a super admin access, uploaded the sales to Facebook ads so that I could show that what I was doing was resulting in sales.
Wow.
So I'm just curious. There's got to be a way to do that with this. I mean, maybe Google doesn't let you like upload your Google Sheet or your spreadsheet like that straight to the MCC in LSA platform. But certainly there's got to be a way, like you said, to do the studio. There's got to be some way to tie that data, even if it's with Supermetrics or whatever the case may be.
That's a great point. And I'm actually, Sarah Schneider is her name. She's my right arm, and I'm going to talk to her about that. And she probably has some thoughts on that because she's been spearheading that effort for us.
Yeah, there's got to be a way.
That's a great idea.
And even creating some kind of integration between that, whether it's a Google Sheet that's being constantly populated in Zapier to pull that data in. You know what I mean? Got to be a way. Supermetrics, whatever case may be, there's got to be a way to do it. Of course, Facebook never told me who it was that bought, but they did tell me this is what because I uploaded the revenue, even the profits on a per car basis. I uploaded that data and it spit out, told me how many people bought as a result of that campaign that I was doing, which was dynamic inventory retargeting for anybody who's wondering. But anyway,
nice.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, this has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation. It's been a pleasure having you here. What's the one big takeaway you want listeners to get from this episode?
Matt, thank you. It's been my pleasure. And I'm really glad that we connected this morning to talk about all this good stuff. It's great. And, really, I think the takeaway is that whether you're investing in Google local service ads or Google ads, or, you're making an investment in organic search, for long-term visibility, or you're considering throwing a lot of money at social media marketing, whether it's LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whether it's, maybe Twitter, the entirety of the whole suite.
Yeah.
It comes down to having the ability to measure and to make informed decisions about investment and reinvestment. And that's an ongoing process. The technology is ever evolving. Now, Google Analytics 4 is rolling out. What additional features, what impact is that going to have? It can only be good, I would like to think. And to the extent that Google local service ads is going to be part of your digital marketing mix, that it can be part of your digital marketing mix,
I would say should be.
I can't recommend highly enough the efficiencies that we've experienced and the value that we've been able to add for our clients. And it's been a foundational kind of disruptive addition to our digital marketing mix.
Yeah.
We oftentimes now with local service providers lead with Google local service ads because that's where you're gonna get the initial bang, and it's gonna empower you, especially if you're a new business, to your point, Matt. to then confidently reinvest. Right now, if you're going in without venture capital and you're just getting started and you're taking your life savings and you're starting a business and you're making your dreams come true and you want to build your multi-million-dollar company, whether you're a roofing company or you're starting up a law firm or you're starting up a landscaping company, whatever the case may be, this is a means by which for you to gain access to the most valuable digital marketing real estate in the world, and to do it
in the history of
within a month, right? Maybe in the history of the world. And then, you can, as you begin to reinvest and you're adding in Google SEM, there's so many acronyms, Google ads into the mix, and you're then investing in organic, and you're building blogs, and you're building backlinks, and you're building the relevance of your company in so many different ways. Having LSAs at the center of it all, and then building out a system that's backed by a third party, whether it's What Converts or something else, you're going to position yourself for long-term measurements of how solvent your business is on an ongoing basis, right down to the day.
Absolutely. And that's very important if you ever want to sell your business.
Indeed.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. So, hey, Andrew, how can our listeners connect with you online?
Oh, well, you can go to our website at www.coreandmoretechnologies.com or come see us on LinkedIn or reach out to us directly. We're readily available. We love talking about this stuff. And
what about you personally? Are you on LinkedIn, I'm assuming?
Correct.
Yeah. Are you active on Twitter or anything like that?
I am active on Twitter under at Core and More Tech.
Okay.
Okay. And
right
on Facebook, facebook.com, I think it's Core and More Tech. Yeah. We have a very long name.
Yeah.
So you can pretty much go with the at Core and More Tech or Core and More Tech, and going to the website, coreandmoretechnologies.com. You're going to see all the links to the various social media pages. And we're rolling out a few new things, not the least of which is video testimonials. Obviously, now with the Gen Zs coming out and, entering the workforce, video content and consumption is becoming a huge deal. And to the extent that we're going to, be out in front of that. And if you're a local service provider, get people giving you video testimonials. There's platforms, there's ways to incorporate it into your website. It's purely distributable content. It's great. We're going to be adding that in for ourselves pretty soon.
That's awesome.
And I think that pretty much covers the ways to get in touch with us. We're always readily available. Love to talk about this stuff. And, we're going to have some really interesting blogs coming out and some videos coming out over the next couple of months that we're working on right now.
All right.
Along the lines of all this stuff.
Wow. That's exciting. Well, hey, thanks again. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Likewise.
I hope you'll come back. And there's so many other things I think we could talk about that triggered my mind as attribution alone, Google Analytics 4 or GA4, Data Studio. There's tons of things, even Google Ads. So thanks for being here. And hopefully maybe you can come back and talk to us again.
Awesome, Matt. Look forward to it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You have a great day.
And you as well. Thank you.